From The Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Claire Harvey. It's Monday, September 8, 2025. Mushroom killer Erin Patterson will be sentenced on Monday for the murders of 3 elderly relatives and the attempted murder of one man at a family lunch in 2023. The sentencing by Justice Christopher Beale will be broadcast live in a first for the Victorian Supreme Court. You can tune in live at theaustralian.com.au. China's interference in Pacific Island politics has reached a new high, with fresh allegations in The Australian today about how Beijing ordered a rogue Solomon Islands MP to be frozen out of the government. That's after the Solomons signed a secretive security pact with China. That exclusive is live now. Banks and police are powerless to stop billions of dollars in black money from the illegal tobacco trade being sent to overseas crime gangs. Within minutes of a pack of illegal cigarettes being sold at a tobacconist or convenience store on Australian streets, the money is transferred overseas. That's just one element of a big investigation into the illegal tobacco trade launching in The Australian today. The black market is booming because of government moves meant to help people kick smoking. Today, how this policy mistake turned into a crime disaster. And can it all be unravelled? Sarah Ison is a senior political reporter with The Australian. Sarah, I was at the service station the other day and there was a tradie in the queue in front of me. He bought a packet of cigarettes and 2 large bottles of water, and it was $70. That was without any petrol. Who is paying for legal cigarettes anymore?
I had this same thought, Claire, when I was buying a pack of cigarettes, not for myself, but because I had bummed a few cigarettes off a mate, and I thought, you know what, I actually want to do this for a mate. It's going to help him out. And it was back when you actually could still buy 40 packs, which is broadly not even doable now. And I couldn't believe it. My eyes were popping out of my head, basically, as the guy behind the register said, yep, that'll be $100. And I could not believe it. Now, you might be listening to this and wondering if I've been taken for a ride. I, too, am still wondering that. But
I hope your friend appreciated it.
Yeah, I think that my friend transferred me money very quickly when he realised what I'd done. It is insane when you're looking at just how much cigarettes have increased in price. It's sort of $50, $55 for some 20 packs. It's insane when they used to be more in their 20s, $20, $30 sort of thing. And this has been a huge increase since 2010 when we first saw excises come in, 25% excise at that time. And then every year they've just gone up. We just had an 8% increase on Monday, just been. And so you're just seeing consistently the price of cigarettes go up, while at the same time, on the black market, you can buy a cigarette pack for as low as $13 for a 20 pack. So it's a huge discrepancy now. That means that we're just seeing a complete exodus of the legal market by consumers to the black market.
Let's step back in time a little bit to the Gillard government. Health Minister Nicola Roxon, to kind of global acclaim from health professionals, introduced plain packaging legislation.
This is the first very courageous step that our parliament has taken to introduce plain packaging. We're going to be the first country around the world to introduce it, and the 1st of January is the start date.
That meant that cigarettes suddenly had to be packaged in ugly grey-green packets that we've all seen, and they had to be kept behind the counter. It was a way to discourage people from smoking.
Australia has scored a world first following the approval last night of new laws to introduce plain packaging for cigarettes.
And at the time, it sort of seemed like the government was being a bit selfless. It's like, look, we're going to forego some tax revenue here. We think that this will encourage people to stop smoking. That's good for everybody because they don't then cost a huge amount of money in healthcare. How has it gone so wrong since then?
It's just that increase of the excise. You've just seen the difference between the price of a legal pack and an illegal pack just yawn, and then that be exploited by crime gangs. We've seen, of course, fire bombings across particularly Victoria, as you're seeing crime gangs see what is really a golden opportunity for them to import much cheaper cigarettes from overseas and sell them at a much lower rate. To the tune of $5 billion a year is what that black market is now worth. It's just a money thing, and particularly we've heard those few words in the recent years of cost of living crisis. We've heard that again and again over the last 5 years or so. So it's that price difference that is really pushing consumers to go to the black market. And we've gone from seeing, more than $6 billion collected in taxes from the excise just 5 years ago to that figure being about, $7 billion in the last budget. So it's really hit a tipping point that some experts say we're very close to never being able to reverse. Some say it's already too late. So it's a really, really huge issue.
Tipping point is a great phrase because the excise reaches a point where it is just ridiculous to be paying $100 or $50 for a packet of cigarettes. And then what's happened on the other side is that the barrier to buying something on the black market has gone down because presumably the shame or the scariness of buying something from a black market seller isn't that big when in fact the black market seller is a convenience store.
Absolutely. It's not someone in a parking lot. It's not someone dodgy. It's not someone who even makes you feel like you're doing the wrong thing. These are convenience stores, and you see states trying to figure out how to tackle this problem in different ways. Queensland and New South Wales recently have tried to say to landlords, if we find that in your building there are people running convenience stores that are selling these black market products, you will be fined, you will be pinged. The problem with that is that we're seeing all this haphazard legislation across the country, not a unified response. So when Queensland introduces some laws, New South Wales quickly goes, oh my goodness, if they do that, we're going to have this huge influx of black market operators into our state. And so you're seeing legislation at different rates. You're seeing, as I said, firebombing in different cities where you have crime gangs fighting for control over this lucrative market. And then broadly, a normalisation of buying black market cigarettes across the consumer base because it's just becoming so common, mostly due to that huge discrepancy in cost between black market and legal cigarettes.
The fact that organised crime has taken an interest in this business opportunity is a big part of the issue, right? Like, you can't really expect a landlord to take on whichever crime gang it is who happens to be selling cigarettes in his or her apartment building. So who is actually profiting from this illegal trade now?
Well, yeah, you have these big crime gangs. You have names like Kaz Hamad, and people would know of this big crime boss in Melbourne most recently because he was allegedly involved in the firebombing of the synagogue in Melbourne, and that was orchestrated by Iran.
Police have declared a firebombing attack on the Adass Israel synagogue in Melbourne's southeast last week as a likely terrorist incident.
Our world-class agencies will provide all the support necessary to find the perpetrators and ensure they face the full force of the law.
So you're seeing even some links between these crime bosses who are being propped up through black market cigarettes and terror attacks and foreign actors. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And what we're hearing from cops is that what started as one of the biggest health issues facing the country regarding smoking and smoking rates and the health burden because of that is quickly turning into the biggest crime issue that the country has ever faced.
Coming up, so is smoking actually going down? That's after the break. So, Sarah, now practically cigarettes are cheaper than they've been in decades, and it's not scary for me to go and buy some from a convenience store that's selling them illegally. Has that undermined the health reform here? Like, are smoking rates now not going down anymore?
Suppose it's hard to say because a lot of the rates that we do broadly see is based off what is being legally bought and reported. right? So that's a difficult thing to keep track of. There's plenty of data that governments could point to showing the legal purchase of cigarettes going down. And so the prevalence of smoking must be going down. Whereas tracking illegal smoking or smoking through illegal means, through this black market, much, much more difficult to track. A Roy Morgan survey was anonymised and it was really widespread. And from its point of view, from Roy Morgan's point of view, based on the people who responded, and again, it was anonymised, was the key thing there. Smoking rates have now remained static over the past decade. So we've seen any gains that could have been made due to the maybe smaller increases in cost per packet now reversed because of people having a different place to go and to buy those cheaper packs of cigarettes.
Big Tobacco's role is very interesting in this. Of course, they fought very hard to resist the plain packaging legislation, and their argument at the time was, we're very happy for people to give up smoking. Of course, we support that, but the risk is here that illegal operators will come in and create a black market. That has now come true. In the meantime, the tobacco firms have pivoted their business model to vapes and are very actively pushing those. How do they fit in now that we're in this diabolical situation?
Yeah, I think you've described that well. It almost feels like a boy who cried wolf situation. The huge tobacco conglomerates were saying for years, don't regulate us too hard, don't make our product too expensive, or you're going to create a black market, which is a convenient excuse or argument. It's come to fruition, which is interesting. But at the same time, you have also seen the proliferation of, as you said, that second range of products, of the vapes. In Australia, we've been trying to keep up with the proliferation of vapes, particularly with how many kids are taking up vapes and what to do there. And that's being treated almost as a separate policy because of how much children have been attracted to those bubblegum flavours and so on.
The federal government will introduce tough new vaping legislation today. The new laws would see pharmacies become the sole trader of products in a bid to tackle the rapid rise in vaping among young people.
So the government has been focusing on vapes quite a lot. We've probably seen them talked about much more in recent years, up until maybe this year, compared to analogue cigarettes, as you'd call them. But now we're really starting to see the cigarette problem come back into the debate in a big way, because particularly in March, there was this huge moment where you saw just how much less was being collected through the tobacco excise. And that moment was really an eye-opener for governments, which had been focused really, really hard on the vapes in particular, to looking at the whole system again because of what seems like an exodus of consumers outside of the legal markets and really flocking to the black market for analogue cigarettes.
Can this be unravelled now in a policy sense? Can the government do anything to fix this situation?
The government is being called upon by some state premiers, New South Wales Premier Chris Minns specifically, to pause the excise. Essentially, this policy is what is creating the problem to at least some degree. A lot of people are saying, please stop it, is really the message. Stop increasing them at this rate.
Here's something you probably thought the Premier would never say. Cigarettes should be cheaper. He's not encouraging smoking, but he is fed up battling the boom in illegal tobacco.
Chris Minns says as it stands, police are being taken off major investigations to crack down on tobacco crime.
The current situation is intolerable. The massive increase has exploded the illicit tobacco marketplace.
The government has not agreed to that or seemed even very open to having that conversation. Now, it would be almost political kryptonite to, let's say, reverse an excise. To pause, though, I mean, it's something that people are wanting just to feel like we're not pouring fuel on a fire. Outside of that, though, Queensland is also calling for the federal government to do more. But in their case, they feel like our borders are just not being patrolled and protected enough by the Australian Border Force, which is a federal government responsibility. And so they want way more money, resources, funding put into that particular measure. The federal government will point to the fact that they've put in $300 to $400 million in the past few years into things like the ABF and policing and so on. But you have experts who point out that for a $5 billion a year black market, that is a drop in the bucket, and that is simply not going to address the problem. And so for the more pessimistic of those out there, there's definitely a sense of this is now all too late. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle. Those who think there might still be something we can do when we pause the excise or do other things like that, are still warning that we're getting very close to that point of no return.
Sarah Eisen is a senior political reporter with The Australian. Thanks, Sarah.
Cheers.
You can read this investigation led by Sarah and our reporter Mohammed Al-Farez right now at theaustralian.com.au.